What is the biggest backstab a friend has done to you? I personally don't have a good one, but if you were to ask my great grandfather when he was alive, it was when his best friend sold him out to the Nazis over a girl. He spent several years in Buchenwald and more thousand cause of that. When I was a little kid, my best friend stole all my Polly Pockets and gave them to another girl because she wanted a new best friend. Freaking W. Polly Pockets. Those were the crap back then. I had two friends over on a weekend. My parents were gone. They knew about it and it was fine. I was 17 and they were both 16. After we went to bed, one of my friends got up and let a girl in that came over to see him. She was 14 and had a crush on him. He gave her a bottle of champagne my parents got on their wedding night. It was 25 years old. He got her drunk on that and some whiskey. They had sex and fell asleep. The next morning her dad was pounding on my door screaming about the cops and killing me. I opened the door and told him I didn't know him or his daughter. She came out and left with him. He took her to the hospital and they did a rape kit. She didn't remember having sex. The cops talked to my two friends and one said we were asleep, and the one that had sex with the girl told the cops he thought I woke up and let the girl in and had sex with her. Cops showed up at my work and arrested me. My friend used a condom with the girl so there was no DNA. I got to spend the night in jail. I wouldn't talk without a lawyer and it peed them off something horrible. The girl remembered having sex with my friend and that I was asleep the entire time in a different room, and so was my other friend. They dropped the charges and let me go. They arrested my friend that slept with a girl for giving a false statement and a few related things. Her dad had to be restrained because he wanted me thrown in jail. I was 17, so I was the only one old enough to be charged with statutory rape. He wouldn't accept it when the cops told him that they had to be sexual contact for that. I didn't have a job anymore even after the cops had to go apologize and explain what happened. They made a huge scene when they arrested me because they thought a 17-year-old had raped a 14-year-old drunk girl. I also found out that when you get charged with a felony as an adult, it doesn't go away when they drop the charges. It was a long and expensive pain in the butt to get my record cleaned up so I could pass a background check. When I was around 16, I came out to my best friend as bisexual. I have been attracted to women since a very young age. AMD was ready to open myself to a same-sex relationship. A week later, all of our friends were being particularly nasty to me and I couldn't figure out why. Turns out my best friend had told everyone she was bisexual and that I hated her because of it. She also told a whole heap of other seriously fricked up lies over the years, but this one took the cake. That is vicious. When I was in 5th grade, I'd walk to school with my 3 friends. One day, there were 4 of us. Not odd because sometimes someone joined us. About halfway to school, one of my friends said, "Okay, stop." Pointed to the new guy and said, "Now, this new guy, who was way stronger than me, beat me up." When I was on the ground, my now ex-friend walked up and explained that I'd pee him off. He explained what it was, but I've forgotten since. But I recall it was petty, so he got the other guy to beat me up. By the way, our other mutual friend stood there looking very guilty the whole time. So, I stayed on the ground as they walked away, got up when I knew they were gone, went to school and got through the day. Never spoke to them again except in passing in high school. In high school reunions, I've had the opportunity to ask why that happened, but some things are just so beyond you leave them alone. However, the guy who looked guilty has always been over friendly to me. I think he still has regrets for letting that happen, because he didn't stay friends with the other guy for long after that. A friend went on vacation to Florida. A group of other friends burglarized his home. They blamed me for robbing him. Little did they know that I was gone to Texas when this all occurred. Frick them. A few years ago I had an iMac that I was selling because I had just bought a fancy new PC that I was going to use for gaming. I had it listed on various sites for around $1,800, which was a fair asking price for the model at the time, and had gotten a few bites, nothing concrete. Then, friend of mine asked if he could buy it, and he asked if I could do a mates rates deal for him. Being a good friend, I obliged and sold it to him for $1,500. It was a little less than I wanted, but hey, it's only money and I was happy to see it go to a friend. Not 2 weeks later I ask him how his new iMac is going. and he tells me that he sold it for $1,850, making a cool $350 profit. When I asked him why he sold it after asking for mates rates, he said yeah, but I never said I was going to keep it. Total scumbag. I later learned he's the kind of person who'd sell his own mother for a 10% discount. I like the people trying to defend him. Yeah, it's fine he resold it, but he used you for a quick buck, which is fricked. She started fricking my then husband and then lied about it. When my marriage was falling apart, I confided in her. She turned around and told him everything I had said. I'm glad to be rid of them both. My best friend let me crash with her after I was able to escape an abusive and nearly deadly relationship. She was married, and while her husband was deployed, she cheated. He found out. I'm guessing the neighbors tipped him off since they knew him well enough, and she was convinced I had told him. So she kicked me out, then proceeded to go to my ex-abuser's work and tell him where I was. The depend epitomous. Fickle creatures who will even eat their children if they think it will benefit them. I was friends with the only girl in my school who wasn't white. We loved hanging out together. The only time I was sent to the principal's office was because I punched a girl who was making fun of her skin and hair. The next year another girl enrolled with a similar skin color. I noticed that she didn't invite me over anymore, and only talked to me in group discussions in class. When I asked why she didn't want to hang out anymore, she told me because I found someone more like me. That's really sad. I met this girl who was a friend of a friend. Seemed like a sweet girl, a few years younger than me. We ended up becoming friends. It turned out she was pregnant and in a terrible living situation. Like, the roaches were trying to eat her at night bad. No way I could let her stay there, let alone bring a newborn there. So we made a deal. I needed someone to watch my kids while I was at work, keep the house picked up, make sure the kids were fed etc etc. She came to live with me and my 2 kids with the understanding that she would take care of the kids in the house while me and so were working full time. I bought everything the baby needed, was there when he was born, helped teach her how to take care of him, got her clothes and everything she needed, far above and beyond our deal. It wasn't long at all before she wasn't doing any of the things she was supposed to. She'd cook for herself and leave my kids to fend for themselves while she laid in her room and watched Netflix. She'd trash the house and never clean it. I, of course, got sick of it and gave her a month and a half notice to find a job, somewhere else to live, and get out. Needless to say, she never bothered to look for a job. She seemed surprised when I did indeed kick her butt out right before Christmas, which I had bought her kid presents for. She ended up going to stay with her grandparents. Almost 6 months later, after refusing to talk to me all that time, she got a hold of me to tell me to gather up her things because she was going to have a couple men I'd never met come to my house and get them. B. What things? Aside from your clothes that you took with you, and the baby things that I bought for your kid that you also took with you. You don't have crap. Anything that could have possibly been hers was long gone. My home is not a storage locker. She blocked me on everything and badmouthed me to a few people, but everyone was already aware of how worthless she was, so I think I'm still a little bitter. Several of my friends fricked the girl I was dating while I was dating her. What made it worse is that she was fricking them, but she wouldn't frick me. She confided in one of my friends, who subsequently told me that she could never have sex with someone as fat as me. She was basically fricking everyone but me. I later found out that I was her beard of sorts for her father. She had an unwanted pregnancy before we started dating, and her father would constantly grill her about whether or not she and I were having sex, so she could legitimately tell her father no because we weren't. But she loved fricking, so she was fricking a bunch of my friends instead. That's one of the dumbest rationalizations I've ever heard. My best friend acting inappropriately towards my boyfriend on a spring break trip, a trip that I wasn't on because I went home to visit my dog who was dying. Thankfully he told me about it and I was able to confront her. I still feel sick to my stomach when I think about it. Wow, crappy best friend. Nice boyfriend though. Happened a few months ago and just got the verdict a couple weeks ago. I'm 15 and a boy. I was friends with this guy. He was pretty clingy outside of school, always wanting to meet up. He's an only child and I guess that was why. He came round my house as we sometimes would, however he never mentioned a sleepover. He made up some bulls to stay round the night. In the night he went downstairs, stole my mum's credit card and bought £2,000 worth of stuff online. Now the prick has 7 months community service and everyone at school knows. Everyone at school knows. Well, that can be a worse punishment than trimming city lawns for a few months. That's for dang sure. I had 5 pieces of art from a school project physically stolen by another girl who had recently moved to our district. My best friend of 5 years took her side because they had recently become friends. I had evidence, and still do, that she took the pieces because she had posted replicas of them on her Instagram about a day after they had gone missing. My best friend ended up cornering me in a bathroom with 3 other girls and told me to leave the girl who had stolen my art alone. I went to the principal about it, but he made it obvious that he didn't care, and at that point I gave up. Never got anything back. The girls who cornered me ended up making a teacher hate me after telling the teacher I made it all up to get the girl in trouble. Whoa, that's fricked up. One of my wife's friends had been a total judgy bee since the start of things. This bee started a stream of drama that almost caused us to break up when we were dating. Skip ahead 2 years. I have to go pick up said friend from the airport and wife says of course that I am to be nice. Really? Be nice to that C? Well, I pick her up. I'm extra nice. And we actually have a good time just alking and hanging out. Finally I'm starting to see that maybe things could turn around and no drama. Boy was I wrong. My expectation was that she and I would get along and she would tell my girlfriend what a nice good guy I was if she even said anything. She goes to my girlfriend, now wife, and says I was flirting with her. I had no freaking interest in flirting with that C. I just did what the GF said and was nice. Active immediately after that. No longer welcome in my dang house. You say a bunch of lies and contrived crap about me first. Then I'm extra nice to the piece of crap and she thinks I'm flirting with her. Some days I think I should have become a monk. Roommate broke our lease and gave me a 1-week notice to move out because she didn't like having a dog. Next week on Snapchat her and her new roommates got a dog. Pretty sure that's illegal. She slept with a guy I was seeing who I really liked. Worst part was I told her everything about us. Probably laughing at me the entire time. This happened to me too. Best friend was screwing my boyfriend behind my back. I told her everything and she used it against me. In grade 5 we had a name the fish competition and the money went to the children's hospital. I entered the names Hope, Faith and Charity for the 3 fish. Shortly after I entered my names, I told my best friend the names I had entered for the fish. At the school assembly where they were announcing the winners, I knew I had a shot, so I was so excited when they said the winner of the name the fish competition, with the entered names of Hope, Faith, and Charity, is LJHN's friend. WTFO, she stole my names and won the prize, which was a 1 kilogram block of chocolate which she wasn't allowed to eat anyway because her mum had her on a strict diet because of her diabetes. To top the story off, knowing she had backstabbed me, she offered her chocolate to everyone else but me. Stupid hoe. My friend slept with my girlfriend on our prom night. Afterwards, the 2 of them ended up dating. The 2 of them somehow convinced our entire group of friends that I was the bad guy in the scenario, apparently because me being upset about it caused drama. I walked away from that entire group and haven't looked back since. That was 7 years ago. When I was young my group of friends all had a copy of Pokemon Ruby Sapphire Emerald, except one guy who I'll call Dan. Well, we are all out up to no good on a building site, sitting on scaffolding and playing some Pokemon. When Dan declares someone's coming, naturally we all leg it and I drop my Game Boy Advance in the process. We all make it to a safe spot and Dan heroically passes me my Game Boy that he picked up. However, Emerald was missing. He says it must have fallen out. I was just happy I didn't lose everything. So we get to school the next day and guess whose mother finally bought them Pokemon Emerald. I had no evidence so couldn't get my game back, but that was the beginning of the end of mine and Dan's friendship. We all have that one friend who likes to steal random crap. My best friend, who was best man at my wedding and had been my best mate since we were 12, convinced my wife to break up with me and be with him. They are married now and have 2 kids. I'm so sorry. If they were both willing to go through with it, you're better off without them in your life anyway. Let a good friend move in. She'd been caught in a DWI, lost her job, lost her apartment, was sleeping in her car in the middle of January. We begged a spare mattress from friends, gave her clothes, paid for food and cigarettes, didn't ask for rent or utility money, bought toys for her 2 kids. She said that when she was evicted, she pretty much lost everything. About the same time, my oldest dog was diagnosed with bone cancer. She was too old to go the amputation chemo route, so the decision was made to give her pain pills to keep her comfortable until the end. Fast forward 2 months. I go to give my dog her evening dose of meds, and the bottle of 120 pills I'd picked up at the vet 10 days earlier was empty. Took about 5 minutes to realize that my good friend, who was living rent and expenses free, was stealing my dying dog's painkillers. About 10 minutes after that, she was out on the sidewalk. Cigarettes. Whoa, you really are a good friend, not just paying for basics. Moved schools once. My first friend was this kid. He had a few friends but really was the loner type of kid. I was friends with mainly him at first. Throughout the year I made more. Eventually we weren't that good of friends. The girl he had a crush on said she had a crush on me, so that didn't help. One random day at the end of the year, we were all talking about how the year went. Told him how much I was thankful that he was my friend at the beginning of the year. Mofo stole my cell phone right out of my backpack during that conversation and I didn't know it. Found out later that day because somebody found it laying out in the parking lot. Dude called for his ride home on my phone and tossed it at the ground. I have no freaking clue why. I didn't talk to him again after that. Shortly after I started dating that girl though. Didn't even realize at the time that I was getting my revenge, lol. Man, that's so unexpected. All of it. Oh awesome. I have a recent one to tell you all. My friend and I both worked as managers at MCDs. I had been dealing with depression from my job, a very low income, and no hopes of going back to school for a career. If either myself or my boyfriend had tried, we wouldn't have had the funds to support ourselves. My friend was in university to become a surgeon. She came from a rich family. She honestly worked for extra spending money. Her boyfriend was about to go back to school as well and already had a high paying job. She had it pretty good and I was happy for her. We were all good friends. I eventually contacted an employment agency that with government funding helped people build their skills and work towards getting a better job. They didn't find you a job but they pushed you in the right direction and gave you the tools to succeed and the means to access jobs other people might not have known about. So I get hooked up with this sweet accounting administrator job, and I ask one of my bosses and my friend to be a positive reference. They both agreed. They went over what they would say roughly, and I went in for the interview. I nailed it. Everyone was super impressed, and at the end of the day I got a call back saying I got the job. I was practically in tears. I wouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck anymore. I had doubled my income, salary, office position, great benefits, vacation, you name it. On my second day, my employment consultant came to speak to both myself and my direct boss supervisor. As my boss leaves the room, the consultant says just so you know, you should probably not use your second reference. And I'm like, what? She said it was bad. I sit down with my boss 2 months later and somehow the topic comes up. We went into a meeting room and closed the door and spoke about it and she asked me our relationship. I told her we were good friends, worked amazing shifts together, had each other's backs at work and always did a great job. She ended up saying a lot of nasty crap about me and doing a complete 180 degrees mid-interview. My boss said it was so unlike my other references. They completely disregarded it and she ended up calling my employment consultant upset and angry that my friend had done that to me. Needless to say, a month later I calmly asked her about the reference she gave, and she went on a huge rant about not wanting to be a part of my drama and that I had better not bother our boyfriends about this, and if I contacted her again she would call the police. Psycho. TL. DR. Asked friend to be a positive reference so I could get out of poverty. She backstabbed me but thankfully I got the job anyway. Whoa. So happy for you though. I had a fucking amazing group of trusted friends. Some were from kindergarten. I left home at 17 because I was gay and everyone, not some or most but all, turned their backs when I visited. They were scared others would think them gay. I was home for mom's funeral. This is the main reason I stayed closeted for so long. I'm sorry, in my experience I got very lucky and all my friends love me regardless of my sexual preference. Copying from another thread I wrote this in. It was my freshman year. First water polo tournament ever. I got my period for the first time before my game and couldn't figure out how to get a tampon in. Like, you want me to stick stuff up there? Heck no. My mom was hours away and her phone was dead and my sister was out of the country. I hid in my hotel room's bathroom crying in anger and pain. And I thought my roommate, my best friend at the time, sympathized with me. She was consoling me and saying everything was going to be alright. So I told her to go ahead and tell the rest of the team I was sick and that I would catch a ride to the high school we were playing at with another parent, and she went on her merry way. After I managed to get a tampon in, I showed up about half an hour late to my team warming up and discovered that my supposed best friend had told the entire team, 20 or so teenage girls, freshman to senior and my 25-year-old male coach, that I couldn't get a tampon in and I was crying in the bathroom. Bad enough, right? Nope. A few weeks later at the lunch table she brings it up to the rest of my friends and laughs about it. About the fact that I was scared about my period and couldn't get a tampon in. Frick you, Abby. Dude. Frick Abby. Tampons are scary AF. The first time, I had a somewhat similar situation where I was away at a swim meet my freshman year and the senior captain walked in on me sobbing in the locker room an hour beforehand. Girl was the real MVP. Had a scholarship for swimming in college and everything, and literally sat with me for 20 minutes and walked me through it. I was in college, and my relationship status turned rocky. I was depressed, working non-stop, or maybe I had just been fired. I can't even remember. I straight was about to break mentally. So naturally, my roommate and only real friend in the area decided to try and convince my girlfriend to leave me. This revelation, along with a couple other crap happenings, caused that mental break. I still haven't recovered fully from it. She's gone. He's gone. I'm back living with my parents, and try as I might, my brain just doesn't function like it used to. I'm not as quick-witted, not as humorous, not as anything. I feel as if I'm 60 years old, every day, and I'm convinced I'm going to die a failure, poor, alone, and unremarkable. Hugs. My mother was extremely abusive to me growing up, but what child doesn't want mommy to love them? So, on the eve of my 18th birthday, she was so sweet to me, talking, laughing and being nice to me. She would sometimes be upset, so it wasn't too surprising. She then put some very soothing Christian music on and told me that God loved me and he would forgive me anything, so it would be safe to confess my sins. Lulled by attention and her very coveted love, I told her I slept with my boyfriend and I felt like it was the wrong thing to do. She promised she wouldn't tell my dad. My daddy is my hero. I would never forgive myself if I let him down. She even promised she wouldn't tell my little brothers and sister. The next day, in a fit of rage at me for not cleaning the bathroom, she started to slap me while screaming for everyone to come here. She then told them everything, every gory detail. My siblings were 4, 8 and 13. I picked up my backpack and threw my 4/4 in it with a shirt and a pair of shorts and told her where she could fornicate. I'll never forget my daddy's face, holding my presents saying, "You can't leave without your presents, baby." He was crying. I walked across the El Paso desert and hitched a ride with a truck driver. I've never forgiven my mother. Of all of these posts, this made me the most sad. I really hope you're still in contact with your dad. Told a womanizer friend of mine to stay away from my ex. He doesn't. She keeps coming round. Friend and me were roomies, and stealthy screwing him. Both lie to me about it. If they would have at least told the truth, I would have gotten over it. Eventually she tries to get back with me and is constantly complaining about him to me. I point out that there is still semen on her clothes from earlier that day. I dated a hoe. LOL. I point out that there is still semen on her clothes from earlier that day. Classy. My best friend of 12 years wasn't just my best friend. He was my brother, as far as I was concerned, until he tried to steal $500 from me. I had thought he was getting into some scary drugs, because he suddenly started acting like a colossal dong to me for no reason, and a drug habit would explain the sudden douchiness and the stealing. I even talked to his mother, concerned that my buddy was struggling with an addiction. If he was sick, I wanted to help him, even if he hated me for it. I didn't wanna see him end up in jail or dead. But nope, he was just a garden variety thief who yelled at me for tattling to his mom. A few years later, I found out from a mutual friend that he had fricked several of my girlfriends behind my back through the years and had recently bragged about never being caught doing it. Frick you, Steve. You traded a friend who had your back for life for a measly $500 and some trashy pee. Hope it was worth it, you prick. TLDR, I'm easy to take advantage of if you're someone I trust. People are docs. Sorry that happened to you. I called a friend up to wish her a happy birthday on the day and ask what she was doing for it. She said she was having a quiet night. Turns out she went out with 8 mutual friends and had a raging all-night party. They thought I had declined the invite. Still bitter about that. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.